All right, everybody, welcome to the Global Experiences International Internships Abroad Paramerchandising info session. We are excited to go over global experiences, how everything works with us, and then specifically international internships with fashion throughout our programs. So a little bit about us. My name's Sam. I have been working at Global Experiences for about a little over a year now. I have been kind of in the world of travel my whole life. My dad worked for the Peace Corps when I was a kid, and that just kind of kept going throughout my life. I taught English preschool and kindergarten over in South Korea for about 3 years. I came home and decided that I really wanted to, be instrumental in young people traveling, and I started working here at Global Experiences.
Hi everybody, my name is Emily Merson and I am the CEO and co-founder of Global Experiences. I'm also from a very well-traveled family, but I'm originally from Sydney, Australia, but now I live in the United States. And I spent most of my college years traveling, working and interning abroad. And I'm a passionate advocate for these experiences as a crucial part of your education, especially when you're trying to find a career that you really think matches your skills and your strengths. There's no better way to do it than to go abroad and start to immerse yourself into your career and try out some things that you might like to do. So we're looking forward to talking to you today about some options.
All right, so look, just a quick outline here on what we're going to cover today. We're going to go over the program in general, how it works and what is included. I'm going to take care of that part of the program, part of the presentation. And then Emily's going to go over the fashion specific part of the program, the fashion cities, and then a couple of success stories from our alumni.
So to get started, not everybody knows that much about Global Experiences, but it's nice to give you a little snapshot of who we are and where we are. We started about 15 years ago and we were really dedicated to helping especially American college students to go abroad and have internships abroad. We started actually in Italy, we started in Rome and then went to Florence and Milan. And for the first probably 3 or 4 years, we were almost 100% fashion internship placements, especially because the fashion industry is so competitive and so hierarchical and you need experience to be able to get a job. We found that helping students get access to internships overseas was one of the most impactful things that we could do. And so we really started focusing on specialization in that area. And we've always maintained, that at our roots, it's fashion students that we work often the best with. And we're really able to help them make those connections between their academic studies and then the professional world.
All right, so you can see there we've got 11 cities worldwide, some better for fashion than others. We work with over 2,000 employers. We can do almost anything. So we do everything from fashion design to, we did an ophthalmology internship in Sydney last summer. So there's almost nothing that we can't figure out for students. Really, it's about the fit for the students specifically. We look at your long-term career goals and then work back from there. So our partnership with the University of Arkansas, what does that actually mean? So the Study Abroad office at Arkansas has kind of vetted our programs and knows us. It makes getting credit for the program that much easier. Specifically, a paramerchandising and the communications department have programs with us. Students from all the colleges are eligible for the program. We have programs in the summer, fall, and spring. The summer programs are 8 weeks long. The fall and spring programs are 12 weeks long. So that's going to be about a little over 300 hours for the summer, over 420 hours for the fall and the spring, which almost always cover the internship hours requirements that universities have. Razorbacks get a $500 discount for all of our programs, which is pretty great. You can see Dr. Smith's contact information there for a little bit more information on the partnership and whether you'd like to get credit for the program. So let's talk about why an international experience, international working experience is valuable. So if you look there, we have kind of percentages down everyone who's young, looking to get a job. So 30% of students have degrees now. I would say that that's actually probably higher now. If you think about the overall working kind of field, there is an oversaturation of college degrees. It's becoming the norm, not the exception to the rule. When students graduate, the majority of students now have some type of working experience, whether it be an internship or actual proper working experience. What we shoot is to have our students be as employable for the career that they want specifically when they graduate. And we do that through international working experience and career development, career readiness. I know that I didn't know anyone with international working experience when I graduated from school. If you think about the value on your resume, being a 21, 22-year-old kid and having a reference in a different hemisphere, in Europe, in Australia, in China, that's what we kind of shoot for each one of our students, to also have kind of a better idea of what they want to do specifically long-term. So what makes global experiences different? We focus heavily on career development and career readiness. So each one of these pieces of the pie here are a specific aspect of career development that we work on with our students. I'm not going to go over each individual one there, but really the whole goal is to help you find a career you love. You know, people talk about making money, people talk about this, they talk about that. Really, what matters in our minds is students, our alumni, being happy and loving the career they have. Everything else will fall into place there. So each one of those pieces of the pie there are really important, actionable things that the students will touch on, either pre-departure or on the ground with our professional development. So we do a big part of our development through the Gallup Strengths Finder. This is part of the pre-departure aspect of the program. So there's two different kind of parts of the pre-departure career development. The Strengths is designed, it has 60 years of research behind it, and it's designed to give each person who takes it a better insight into their top 5 professional strengths. What I like telling students is it's basically things you already kind of knew about yourself. It just makes it easier to contextualize, but it's also important to understand how your strengths can be perceived in the workplace. So for example, I have WOO. It stands for winning others over. So what they told me in my strengths call with the professional coach that all of our students have, what they told me in my call was that you like becoming best friends with all your Uber drivers. I know that's true for me. They also said one of the negative aspects of WOO is the fact that you might talk too much, which I know for sure, and my mom has told me before. So you can see here some of the stats on the Strengths Finder. We have all of our students take the Strengths Finder and do a call with a Gallup certified coach. Before they go, the coach is going to go over what your strengths are, how they can be perceived in the workplace, how you can kind of leverage them in your internship and long term. The coach is also going to go over interview skills and go over your professional documents. So things that we really want to do to kind of make sure that the basics are all covered before you actually do your interview with a potential employer abroad. So what's included in the program? So the program is structured in the same way that a traditional study abroad program is structured. It's really easy to talk to your parents about it in that same sense. It's really easy to think about it in that same kind of context. So there's a big group that goes over there. The groups are typically around 40 to 50 students. In Dublin and London, we have over 100 students, which is pretty cool. Things that are covered: travel medical insurance, furnished accommodation, near public transportation. All of our housing is centrally located as to cut down on commuting time. So there's students doing all types of internships on each program. If you're a fashion student, you're going to be the only global experiences intern in your fashion company. But they're going to be engineers, and they're going to be graphic designers, and maybe there'll be an ophthalmologist, who knows. They're going to be going all over the city to different internships. What's cool is everyone has their own little world when they go off to work and they come back. There's this kind of fun little community that's developed at the housing. We work with all the students on visas if you do need a visa for the location that you're going to. Most of the fashion, except for London, most of the fashion locations, you don't need a visa, which is great. There's an orientation when you get there, which you'll go over the basics of the city you're in with your location coordinator. So every city has a location coordinator that's available to all the students 24 hours a day for emergency context, but also for like little things. So I know when I traveled abroad, and I'm sure Emily can agree, there's a lot of little things that you don't really think about that become these kind of annoying kind of bigger problems. So when I got to South Korea, I couldn't find deodorant anywhere. I know it sounds really weird. I just couldn't find it anywhere. And it's just something that you can't really find in most Asian markets. I really could have used the location coordinator there. I ended up finding some help, but that's the kind of thing that the location coordinator is there to help with. They're also there to make sure that everything is going well professionally. So there can be challenges in your internship. The location coordinator is there for advice on professional development, things like that. They have a check-in 2 weeks into your internship to make sure that the student's doing all right, that the employer is kind of meeting expectations as well. The internships you're not going to be going and getting coffee, you're not going to be doing admin work for more than about 10 to 15% of the time. If we do have anything like that happens, we get in contact with the employer. Most of the employers that we work with, they're relationships that we've built over a number of years, especially in fashion. So we've vetted the experience and really know that it's going to be valuable for our students moving forward in their careers. So on the ground, there are group outings. There is a group orientation and welcome party when you first get there, and then there's one big kind of cultural fun event that you do. So in Dublin, the students go to the Cliffs of Moher. My favorite one is hermit crab racing in Sydney. They've also gone paddleboarding in Sydney, which is pretty cool. I know in Barcelona and the Italian locations and Paris as well, they've gone out to like wineries. I know they did a paint night in Paris, actually just a couple of weeks ago, which was kind of fun. So they vary based on different locations. We have a career development workshop in every location that is really, really important. It's mandatory for every student to go to. Not as exciting as a crab racing, but really important for your kind of long-term career development. So what we do in the workshop is have each student really think about the next steps in their career. And we kind of challenge students to not think like a student, but more think like a young professional. So we go over a lot of really actionable things like developing your LinkedIn properly, understanding what informational interviews are, what an elevator speech is, actually developing those. What's really great about the workshop is each student leaves with a career roadmap that they've actually written down, which is really, really important. It can be kind of scary, kind of nerve-wracking, but the real world's coming for you whether you like it or not. So like I said, there's internship visits and feedback by the location coordinator, networking events that we have all the students go to. I know networking can be kind of intimidating. It's really, really important in fashion, as I'm sure Emily will touch on. Networking really isn't as scary as it might seem. You're really just having conversations, and that's what we kind of challenge each student to do. Again, developing your online presence, the LinkedIn, and then every student gets a 1-week transportation card when they first get there, and then the visa processing support. London is the biggest location as far as that's concerned. It takes about 8 weeks to get the London visa, so we would assist with that. All right, so let's talk about the process and how everything works. So you can apply through Global Experiences online. You can find us through the Study Abroad website, through the Razorbacks Hogs Abroad website, or you can just go to our website. There's a big Get Started button in the top right. So you would apply. I work with all the Arkansas students, and the application takes about 20 minutes, not too difficult. You would have an initial call with me to go over specifically what you hope to be doing, whether it be fashion merchandising or really anything else in the fashion world. I would speak with the location director about each individual student, what you want to do, what your long-term goals are, what you might be qualified for. If our placement director, for example, Claire in London, if she thinks that we can guarantee you an internship in your career field, we go ahead and accept you into the program. We try to accept as many students as possible. Timing is a big part of whether we accept a student or not. We actually kind of work more on employers' deadlines and not as much on school deadlines. Again, that goes back to kind of thinking about this program as a more kind of mature program and where you're thinking more like a young professional and not like a student. So once you enroll, that starts the initial career development part of the program, where you are going to go over, you're going to do the strengths finder, have a call to a professional coach, and speak with your one-on-one program advisor. And that goes into the prepare part of the program. And this is where I know students typically have questions on like how you actually get the interview. So what we do is we speak with you and learn about what your strengths are, what you want specifically, and then from there we throw a big net out to a lot of different employers who we think are going to be a good fit for you specifically. When we have one employer that's interested in interviewing you, we'll come back and we'll say, hey, we've got this great opportunity for you. What do you think? If you think it's going to be a good fit, we would set up the Skype interview. So that results in an internship about 90% of the time. If there was any kind of a hiccup, if the student didn't think that the internship was going to be a good fit after their interview, or if the employer didn't think it would be a good fit, we would simply move on to the next opportunity. So that's kind of how all that works. And then you go and you get there. The orientation is the first day of the program, and you would start your internship at 10 o'clock in the morning that following Tuesday. So I'm going to kick it over to Emily to go over the specifics on the different locations that we have for fashion.
Hi, everybody. So just to let you guys know, when we first started Global Experiences, for me, one of the biggest reasons we went to Italy was because I loved Italy and I love fashion, and I thought this is really going to be a great place to get started. So I'm always excited to share some of my stories, and the fashion industry has changed a lot since I first started working with different companies abroad. Certainly the last 15 years has seen a lot of change. I'm sure you talk about it in your classes quite often, the rise of the internet, changing technology, the rise of China and outsourcing. So there's lots of different aspects to the fashion industry, as I'm sure you know. And all of those trends and changes are always part of the learning process for us as an organization, as we get to know the companies that we work with and the types of experiences that students are looking for, but also that are available in different cities. And probably nowhere has changed more than the fashion industry in Italy in the last 15 years. So Milan is often what people think of when they think of fashion in Italy, and certainly Italian language and the culture and style of Italy is still a huge influence on international global fashion trends. And I know that lots of students who are interested in fashion in the US think of the need to have some experience or knowledge about the Italian fashion culture, and perhaps are looking for experience firsthand with that culture, because probably maybe France is a close second, but there really is a distinct difference business culture-wise in Italy compared to the US. And being able to work very productively and successfully in a different business culture is very important if you're looking for a global career in fashion. Obviously, if you work in the US in a fashion company, you'll gain a lot of practical skills related to the industry, but so much of the fashion industry is about human relationships and connections, and ultimately being able to understand and affect on a goal together. And if you don't understand the other culture, often they're very counterproductive partnerships. So as a student and somebody who's interested in perhaps being in the global side of fashion, I'm not sure which part of fashion isn't global now, but certainly that's an important thing to keep in mind, is sometimes that learning about the most different aspects culturally of the people who work in fashion could be the most important to give you that experience that differentiates you from somebody else. So when students go to Milan, the majority of them in fashion will be in the business sector, and that business sector is quite broad, as you know, and I'm quite a little bit familiar with some of your major subjects that you take. But certainly for the most part, most of the interns will be working in some kind of a fashion showroom environment. And depending on how familiar you guys are, those showrooms can be various different sizes, and most of the showrooms have multiple brands that they represent. And they're the connection really between the catwalk, where the designers will show their clothing, and the buyers. So the showrooms act in this very important kind of wholesale capacity, where a buyer from the US, say from Barney's or Saks Fifth Avenue, would go to the fashion shows. They would see the clothes come down the catwalk, and then it would be in the showroom that they actually get to see the samples close up, look at the fabrics, look at the quality, have the garments modeled perhaps by an in-house model that's showing the clients what the different range might be. And so typically our interns are working in a front of house capacity, working very closely with the people who run the store, because so many of the showroom, so many of the buyers are going to be English speaking. So in that environment, our interns are often a really powerful link between those organizations. So we've probably got the most placements in fashion business in the world in Milan. Probably, I would say London is second, but really a unique opportunity to get really great experience, make connections, and also get some Italian language skills, which is always important. The fashion industry in Milan and the experience there, it's probably one of the most fashionable cities in the world. Fashion just oozes out of the streets, and people are always looking like they're out of a catwalk. So it's kind of can be a little intimidating, but we try and give you the best preparation so you go and arrive in Milan ready for that fashion experience. So a little bit different to Milan is Florence, and Florence is very popular, I know, for study abroad. And lots of students go there because they really want to experience, the art history, the historical part of Italy. And Florence is a very beautiful, small city, which is very walkable and easy to become familiar with. There's lots of American students studying there. And in the fashion world, there is a lot of small family-run multi-generation organizations, and students are able to get to be in more of a family feel and be very much closer to the production. So if you're working on the fashion business side, you're probably going to be working with somebody who's also involved in the design and manufacturing as well. So you'll be much closer to the cycle of fashion, I guess you could say, as opposed to being just a spoke in one of the wheels. You'll be much closer to seeing the full cycle of the creative and the production, and then also the marketing and the sales. And in this area, I think probably as productions move to China, I think probably Florence has lost out the most, because they've always been very renowned for their textile production and knitwear production, which is really founded outside of Florence in a town called Prato. And so as the manufacturing has moved to China, a lot of the work that was done in Florence is now no longer being done there. And the Florentine fashion sector is often a consultant now to Chinese manufacturing. But it's still a wonderful place to go, especially if you dream about fashion style and being in a place that really is the home of a lot of trends. We've got the Gucci Museum there, the Ferragamo Museum. There's a lot of history to do with fashion and style that's worth being close to if you're interested in that. And of course, you can practice your Italian. Sydney, so this is my hometown, so this is a good one for me to talk about. So I grew up in Sydney, and I still maintain that it is one of the most fashionable cities in the world. Australians like to dress up. They like to dress up to go to work. They think about their outfits. They read Vogue. They are very body conscious because of the weather being pretty mild and very much beach centric, as well as quite urban. And it's kind of like a mini New York as well. So if you can imagine what New York City is like, that you can see a little bit of Sydney there. We have quite a range of placements in Sydney. We have some very high-end haute couture type of businesses, as well as some larger companies, especially some that have multiple brand lines within the same operation. So they may be having multiple storefronts, as well as selling into department stores and globally. And so they're working on a wholesale and a retail level. And then they do a lot of in-house management. So they've got in-house accounting, they've got financing, they've got marketing, they've got communications, they've got design, all in the one building. So that's quite an interesting environment to be in. There's also a lot of athletic leisure wear. So more of the fitness side and the sort of cutting edge. And because the seasons are opposite there, they always like to think that they're one season ahead of the Northern Hemisphere. So it's a pretty cool city to go to. Paris, of course. Paris is certainly a unique experience like Italy is, and it gives you that really different cultural opportunity to get to know a very different business culture. Fashion in general is very hierarchical, if you don't know already. Very rarely do you leap across a rung of the experience track, and definitely people expect you to kind of earn your stripes at different levels as you move through the industry. And in fashion in Paris has certainly got some of that, where interns are expected to really contribute and to be the hardest workers sometimes in the room. But it's unrivaled in terms of networking and being close to that industry, which, you know, everybody thinks about Paris when they think of fashion. So it's a really great opportunity. London, it's really the fastest moving of all the cities where we have fashion. Maybe New York is equal to it. That we have every area of fashion there, probably more than anywhere else. Small, medium and large brands. Fashion business PR industry is huge. If you're interested in fashion PR, I would definitely go to London. We have fashion PR companies, PR companies that only work with fashion clients. There's a lot of variation of opportunities, magazines and related fashion business opportunities in London that I think if you're interested in cutting edge fashion, fast fashion, as well as some higher end, new fashion designers coming onto the market. We've had a whole range of placements with different companies that have really been at the early stages of becoming well known, and I think that that's a great opportunity to break into the industry there. But our fashion interns in London work super hard. It's a very fast paced environment. When there's Fashion Week, and this applies across the world, when the Fashion Week's on in the spring and the fall, and if you're lucky to be involved in that, you can expect to work really hard leading up to it, and then there's going to be some downtime afterwards. So you'll get your hours in, but it may not be evenly spread. But the reward is, of course, that you can say you worked at Fashion Week and you're a part of that excitement. New York, we offer fashion as well, and it's another great option for students. who are in the US but are not in an international city like New York. Sometimes the experience of just going to New York is already global enough. And it's certainly, for those who haven't spent time there, it's a really fast-paced international city, and certainly for the fashion industry, it's a huge part of the economic engine, and extremely creative and exciting, and especially for people who are interested in potentially getting a job when they're from their internship, making the right connections in the US. An internship in New York in fashion is certainly a great way of going. And even though you might not be thinking, oh, but I can get my own internship in New York. Well, yes, you can, except the industry is so competitive, you might find it hard. And because we've been building relationships and connections there for so long, we really have some great opportunities that we can help match you with, which helps get you around the challenge of applying to 100 different internships. And the other side is that just because it's New York doesn't make it any easier a city to live in. And so you'll also be living with a group of students, Americans and international students, who are all there for the professional experience. And you get all the same benefits of the career readiness, the support, the social, and the group's very close-knit. So our students all stay at NYU housing there in New York City. Okay, so most importantly, why would you do this versus not doing this? And I think for us is really the employability aspect. We've done big surveys of our alumni. We've had now over 6,000 of them. And one of the best statistics is really that students who do our programs find a job 3 times faster than the national average. So students are really finding opportunities in their area, finding jobs that they love much more quickly. They're not coming out of college and then having, a panic about what to do next. We really want our students to be ready for that next step and to know themselves well enough to make a good choice. And that's really our goal for working with all of our participants. And it's very much a one-on-one experience for each of the people who come through our program. So obviously we've got lots of alumni now. They're working all over the world. They're working in all sorts of different brands, some of them small, some of them large. I think New York City has our highest concentration of fashion interns who are now employed there. And one of the most important things we've found is that an international experience doesn't just get you your first job, but often it helps you get a promotion internally once you do have that entry-level role or that first position. You may find that you're given the international opportunities because they know that you've had that experience and they can trust you to, say, go on that trip to Paris or that trip to New York or to Milan, because they know that you know how to work in a different culture and that maybe you even have some language skills. So it does have the residual benefit of that confidence. So just a few little examples of alumni stories. This is one of our, Katie Shannon, her name is, she's actually been with us. She's actually helped out on location in Milan a few times now when we have our students there, and she's going to be there this summer as well as a support. She's a great advocate for our programs. She interned with us many years ago, and she worked in a showroom there, and now she's still working in the fashion industry. So she's working in Milan now full time. And then Sydney, we have interns in all different areas. This one was with a company called Javiva, and she did a range of fashion business related work. And now she's working with Zappos here back in the US as a fashion buyer. So I'm going to turn you back to Sam. He's going to answer any questions that you guys have.
Hey guys, so Dr. Smith, if you want to type in some questions there on the side, I'd be happy to answer any questions that we might have.
Turn the volume on so we can hear them. Can you still see that? Just leave it.
Sure. Options for paid internships. This is a really common question. It is possible for paid internships abroad. We tell all of our students to expect an unpaid internship. In a big part, in most of the locations, you're just not legally allowed to work. It has happened before. The locations where it's probably more possible would be Sydney, Australia, because you're there on a working visa where you're actually legally allowed to work. So short answer, we say no. Maybe New York as well. But we tell all of our students to really expect an unpaid internship. Any other questions? So the average cost. So with housing, the programs range in the summertime. They are around 7,000 to 8,000 US dollars. In the fall and the spring, they're between 9 and 11,000 US dollars in London and New York City. There are scholarships available. Like I said, there is that discount for Razorbacks, which is great. We're happy to honor any kind of scholarships that students might have currently, or financial aid. Typically, the threshold for financial aid is going to be 6 credits. So what I do is work directly with each individual student and your academic advisor and your study abroad advisor to get you that credit that might get you to be eligible to use the scholarship that you might have or financial aid. Do you get to pick where you go, or do you play students based on their goals? So that's where I come in.
Choose the city.
You get to choose the city that you'd like to go to. I'm here to kind of help with that decision because certain locations are better for certain internships. So like we said, fashion design, probably a little bit better in Florence, whereas fashion business type internships are a little bit better in Milan. If you really have your heart set on Florence and you want to do something in fashion business, that's possible. So really it's the student's choice where they would like to go. We work as a kind of consultant here to help them decide that based on their goals, and then obviously which city they'd like to go to. So on our website, we've got examples of internships other students have done, which I think is a really important piece to the pie. It'll really make the whole program a little bit more tangible and easy to understand. So the timeline for applying, and is there still availability for this summer? So there's definitely still availability for this summer. This month and next month is when we see the most applicants we have. So we encourage students to really apply as soon as possible. And the biggest reason for that is the employers. And we want to get students to the initial aspect of the program, the professional development part, so we can start presenting your profile to students immediately or to employers immediately. We've already placed students in many different internships abroad. So really as soon as possible for applications is what we tell students. As far as the timeline for applying and actually being accepted, that process can be as quick as 10 days. the process as far as whether we accept or not only takes about 3 days. I'll do the initial call with a student, then I'll talk to the placement directors on the ground. We'll look over the applicants. That only takes about 48 to 72 hours. And then there's a 10-day period when your acceptance is valid. So that process can be, 10 to 13 days. As far as the actual internship, that's a little bit less clear because we are working with employers. So we're going to kind of present your individual profiles to a number of different employers. When we have one that's interested in interviewing you, we'll set up the interview. So that typically takes about a month or a little bit longer than that. You can expect to have your internship if you were to, let's say you were accepted and you applied tomorrow. You could expect to have your internship about 3 months before, an internship confirmed about 3 months before the program starts. Okay, great, guys. Thank you so much. If you are interested in applying, you can just go to globalexperiences.com and you can click on apply, use your Razorbacks email, and I would be happy to speak with each of you individually, even if you just have questions. You can also find us through the Hogs Abroad website. Thanks for attending, guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.